how we can grant permissions for the users. Now from the ribbon menu, click on grant permissions. Here you can invite people, whether he is a user or a group. If he is a user, just type the username. It will auto populate from the active directory. He is a user. Then you can select the role, nothing but your permission level. Whether you want to grant read only, contribute, or full control. If you want to grant read only on the page, click on share. So this is how we can grant. Similarly, and this the type of the user is, he is a user, he is a normal user available in the firm. And if you want to grant permissions, click on grant. This time I want to check for some groups. How do we know whether you have groups? All these are groups. Generally every company will have domain users as a common group, all users. Still select the permissions level, click on share. So you can see, so all the employees in the company have read permissions, and this user is also has permission. Okay, that is on the parent side. Now same thing if I want to check under departments. While creating this site, we have selected department to inherit permissions from parent to child. So what happens? Whatever the permission that we have on the parent, it will still persist on the child. So click on departments, go to site, actions, site settings, under users and permissions, click on site permissions. This website inherits from your parent. That means you don't have a checkbox to delete or grant. Even if you click on grant permissions, or if you want to add permissions, they will get access to the parent, because this site is sharing permissions with the parent site. Okay, so you won't get a chance to add permissions. Similarly, if I want to go to the HR site, HR has a different permissions. Go to the site actions, site settings, under site permissions. Now here this website has a separate permissions when compared to the parent. So that's the reason we still see a checkboxes. Immediately let us clean up all this. click on this button. Okay. Now if I want to grant permissions for the same set of users, I can grant a different permissions for the same set of users. First let me add a user. He is a user. Let me grant him contribute. Click on share. Now we can also add a group. Let us see what happens if I add a group. Let me grant them full control only on the HR. Now we can ask, so every user is part of an administrator. What kind of a permissions does the user gets? Whichever is the highest. The highest permissions will be inherited. So administrator here has full control. Okay. Similarly, when I navigate to finance, it is inheriting from parent. So whatever the permissions the parent has, the child will retain the same set of permissions. You see here you don't have a checkbox to remove. Even if you grant, they still have different set of, they still go to the parent side and share permissions with the parent. Okay. The next immediate question that one might think of. Now, I broke inheritance from parent, but later on I realized this is not the correct site. I should have done it for a different site. Can I undo those changes or can I revert back? Yes. At any point of time, let's say you have HR, site actions, site settings, under site permissions. Here you can always click on this, delete all unique permissions and inherit permissions from parent. So that means, so even if you have created a site using unique permissions, that means you can always revert back those settings. You can connect. So if I click on this button, if I click on this button, it will get permissions from parent. It will get permissions from parent. Now the same option, okay, it will get the same permissions from parent. Okay. Now if you see here, go to finance, site actions, site settings, site permissions. Now if I stop inheriting, that means yes, it can also have a unique permissions, unique set of permissions. Okay. Next thing, Now on the parent side, if I want to check what are the permissions that a user has, you can always check. Go to site actions, site settings, site permissions. There is a button called as check permissions. Click on this. Here, if you want to check for a user, now I want to check what permissions does this user have on all the sites. Yes, it will show you he has so and so permissions. He has permissions through the group as well, read permissions. And what can he do? Yes, this is what he can do, because he is a part of the site collection administrator. Now let me look out for some other user. He is part of the admin domain users. Let me check what kind of permissions that this person has. He has only domain user, so he is not a part of site collection administrator. So he has only these permissions. Next thing, now what if I want to restrict few permissions from the roles? How can we do that? So generally I want to grant some set of permissions to a user with read only, but I don't want read only user to download a document. In those scenarios we can go to site actions, site settings, site permissions. There is a link called as permission levels. Here you have the ability to add a permission level, or you can see can view pages and list items and download documents. Click on this. If you don't want user to download, remove that option. Download view, open view, create alert, delete is not there, download. So we have to remove this view option, then only can view application pages, I think. Similarly, if you want to change the contribute where user cannot delete the document, so you can uncheck this. That means you can have customized permission level. How to do that? Go to permission levels. All these are the levels: full control, design, edit, contribute, limit. Now you want to have your own custom permission level. Custom permission level. Okay, so here based on the features, based on the permissions, the scope of the permissions, we can grant permissions, we can grant roles. So we don't want user to add items or update, read, download. you can check those relevant options, and for the site as well. These are for list level, whether user has to download. This is for site, whether user can create sites and everything. This is for permissions. So we have 3 set of permissions. So based on the option that we select, we can create our own permission level, a custom permission level. We can have custom role. Custom role with whatever the option that you want. Minimal would be view items. That's it. Don't give them any items to open that in a server side handlers, delete versions or anything. View application pages or something like that. Then grant permissions, view pages, don't enumerate any permissions. That's it. These are the minimum level of permissions that you want to restrict user. So we can have your own roles. Okay. So overall, in a firm we use either read only, contribute, and full control permission based on the requirement. And if you want to customize it, go to that particular option as I've shown you in the permission roles. In the permission roles, we can create your own permission level. Then we can manage our custom permission role. Okay, so this all about working with navigation and security. So in today's session, I hope you are familiar with creating site collections, subsites, navigation, and security in SharePoint. Hope this helps. Thank you. We'll continue with other topics in the next sessions. Thank you.